Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name is Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Waterhouse.
Steve Jackson, how are you? It's great to see you again. In fact, it's only been a week, hasn't it, since we last saw
It always feels longer, though, doesn't it? But yes, it's been just a week. But it was important that we had another podcast as quick as possible because we're coming towards the end of the golf season, and you know we went 3 weeks without one, so let's get two in 2 weeks, then, shall we? So yeah. Right, now this podcast is all about junior golf. It's about the next generation of golfers. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. This is the 22nd Progress Junior Golf podcast.
So I got it right this week. I got it right this week.
Yes, well done. Correct.
Last week I got it wrong.
Yes, you can count to 22. Congratulations. Yes. Now, this evening, we're going to be looking at one of the biggest topics, not just in golf, not just in sport, but in the world, really, because we're going to be looking at climate change and in particular, sustainability in golf, in the golf industry. Now, it's obviously a topic that is, well, it doesn't just cover sport, it covers everything nearly. But the people who are going to benefit the most, let's be honest, not me and you, Ian, but it's going to be the ones to the next generation, the younger kids, because they're the ones who are going to have to, dare I say it, they're going to have to bear the brunt of what we do now, kind of thing. So it's important that we get the juniors involved and the youngsters involved to make sure that we make the right decisions for them. So joining us live in the studio to help us out is going to be England Golf Young Ambassador Alex Holding, and we're also going to hear from Executive Director GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf, Jonathan Smith. That's a pre-recorded interview with him. We're going to get clips and we're going to get Alex's view of exactly what's going on within the golf industry. So massive topic, which spreads not just through golf, but in other industries as well, of course.
Absolutely. I will say as well, Steve, it is such a vast topic. But if you do have a question or you want to have your say, please comment below. We actually want to know what your golf clubs are doing as well. So please comment, tell us. If you head over to Live Sport Now on YouTube, there's a link in the body of this broadcast. If you comment in the chat section, we can actually bring your comment on screen. How cool is that? So tell us, what is your golf club doing to really have a positive effect on sustainability? We want to hear from you, so please do comment below. As Steve says, what we do today influences is going to have a major impact on the junior golfers coming through now. It's such a huge subject, not just in golf, but everywhere. But this is a golf podcast, Steve.
Absolutely. So first things first, though, let's get the junior golf news then sorted. As you can appreciate, this time of the year, kids are back at school, so there's not going to be that many golf competitions. A few at the weekends and a few golf tours have had their events. But there's been some student competitions. So we'll start with those then. Been one big one over in France. This just finished today, actually, at Le Golf National, which of course hosted the Ryder Cup a few years ago. 3 Swedish players finished first, second, and third in the boys' competition. Jesper Littorin won with a 3 under par score, played over 3 rounds, 72, 69, 70, won by 1 shot from William Liu and Hugo Stark. Really came down to the last 2 holes. It was very tight. He parred the last 2 holes, and the other 2 players, they dropped a few shots on the last couple of holes, and that's the reason why he went on to win there. The girls' competition was won by Lorna McClymont, another name which has cropped up on a few occasions in the podcast over the last year or so, and won by distance as well. She finished 1 over par, won by 12 shots from Megan Giles, and in third place was Darcy Harry. She shot 75, 71, 70, so it got better as the week went on. So well done to her.
Actually, before you move on, Steve, I've just got a quick question for you. I'm not an expert in French golf courses. Obviously, I know Le Golf National, and yes. I've had the pleasure of interviewing the French Golf Federation president a couple of years ago. And of course, we talked Le Golf National, we talked about the Ryder Cup, etc. And now we've spoken about heading over to France a few times on the podcast for tournaments in the news section. And we only ever go to Le Golf National. I mean, is there literally just one golf course in France?
No, I hope not.
I jest, of course. It's just I know the Golf National is something special, isn't it? It's sort of France's Augusta, I suppose. But yeah, we never seem to go anywhere else. It's always the Golf National when there's a tournament on.
To be fair to them, they've been holding some really big competitions over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. So that's the reason why they've been mentioned a little bit more than others. But I'm sure if there are any French golf clubs listening to this or watching this, then please get in touch. We'd like to hear about your junior golf news if you've got anything to tell us.
Please do. And if you want to invite me and Steve for a round,
absolutely.
We'll come over.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. We won't. We're not going to turn you down. Right, staying with students golf though. Actually, the person who finished first and second in this both played in that competition over in France. This was a week earlier. The Irish Intervarsity Championship took place at Rosslare Golf Club. The winner, I think we got a photo. Kate Dwyer won the competition. I love the photo, not necessarily because of her. I just love his face. Whoever
He's the happiest man ever, doesn't he?
Absolutely. You know, the fact that he managed to give away the trophy today. So I love that photo. But yeah, Kate Dwyer won. She was the only player who actually finished under par. Second place was Ryan Griffin. Third was Shane Irwin. And you mentioned the previous competition, it came down to the last 2 holes. This came down to the last hole. And if I told you that Ryan Griffin eagled the 18th hole, so did Shane Irwin eagle the 18th hole. So nothing like putting the pressure on Katie Dwyer. She birdied the 18th hole to win by 1 shot. So well done to Katie.
Talk about pressure, yeah, absolutely. Well done. Absolutely. Well done to Katie.
Yes. Saying student golf then, up in Fife, so Scotland north of the border this time. The British Universities and Colleges Sport, they played their final at Fairmont on the Torrance course, of course, a place where we know we've been early this year. Another foreign winner of this one, Judd Sunderson from South Africa won. He was the only boy anyway, who finished under par. 1 under par, he finished 74, 69, 72 for his 3 rounds. Second place, joint second, was William Squires and Matthew Giles. You know me as a journalist, I always look for what the actual story, the angle of the story was. And I was looking at the scorecards. The interesting thing about it was what Judd's scores were on the par 5 holes, because 4 par 5 holes there. The third hole he did birdie, par, bogey, so a little bit inconsistent, but he was super consistent on the other 3 holes. The 6th hole, 3 holes, all 3 birdies on all 3 days. 12th hole, 3 bogeys, all 3 days. And the 18th hole, 3 pars, all 3 days. So there's consistency for you. So,
I know which 3 I'd rather have.
Absolutely, yeah. To be fair, I'd settle for the 3 bogeys, but there you go. So
yeah, so would I.
Yes. Girls competition then, that was won by Lucia Masding from Knoll Park. She won by 1 shot from Kira Barnes from St Enodoc. Actually, St Enodoc as well. I did notice this week that they've won an award for their sustainability. So well done to St Enodoc as well. Obviously, very relevant for what we're going to be talking about here as well today. So staying in Scotland then, the Paul Lawrie Golf Foundation. I think we've got a photo which was put on Twitter. The Academy's finals day took place at Blair Rowley Golf Club. The tweet which was sent out by Paul Lawrie included this photo, and he said, "Congratulations to everyone involved and well done to the winners from the South region." Now, I've been being brutally honest, I couldn't find the results from this competition, so I wasn't sure who the players were who were representing the South region or even which clubs within that South region, but by the sounds of it, the South region won. So congratulations to them.
The only thing I can tell there, that bloke in the grey jacket in the middle, he's not a junior golfer.
No, he's he might be Paul Lawrie. You never know. So and actually
sponsors there either, does he?
No, of course not. And actually, along the same theme, we've got another couple of big events coming up, which do involve some very, very big names. Of course, Paul Lawrie, former Ryder Cup player, former Open champion. Well, we've got coming up, we've got the Justin Rose Telegraph Junior Golf Championship. That takes place at Quinta de Largo from October the 31st to November the 4th. And wow, got some names playing in this competition. 12 boys and 12 girls in the gross competition. So if I'll give you the handicap, shall I? The boys, +4, +4, +4, +4, +4, +4, +3, +2, +2, +1, scratch and scratch. So the worst player in the competition, if worse is the right word to use, is the scratch golfer. Now, the interesting thing about it is he's the youngest player, a lad called Oliver Smith. He also might well be the favourite. And the reason why I say that in a weird way is because it's being played at Quinta de Largo and that's his home club. So watch out for him. I think he might do quite well in that. Just to give you an idea of some of the other names in that, Harley Smith, Jack Lee, Oliver Mukherjee, names who we regularly mention on this. Girls competition, I said the handicaps were pretty good with the boys. Girls handicaps, +5, +5, +5, +4, +3, +3, +2, +2, +1, +1, and +1. And there's one player playing off scratch.
Who is it?
So once again, all fantastic. And once again, some names we're very familiar with, the likes of Roisin Scanlon, Sophia Fulbrook, Amelia Wan. Youngest player once again, 14-year-old Charlotte Norton. So right the way through the age, very young players playing in that. There is a net competition as well, 6 players playing in that as well. I think the 2 names I'll pick out there, James Bowler and Alice Taylor. There's 3 girls, 3 boys in that competition. The reason why I picked those 2 is because they're both on the same club. So Camberley Hill, congratulations to them, the fact that you've managed to get 2 players to play in that final. So best of luck for everyone who's going over to Portugal to play in that competition. Another massive event overseas coming up, the Faldo Series, that's coming up. The UAE, November the 1st to the 3rd. I'm going to be there. We're going to do an interview with Nick Faldo, Sir Nick Faldo. Anyone who has any questions which you want me to put across to Sir Nick, then please get in touch with us, info@progressjuniorgolf.com. We have already had some people who've been in touch who've put some questions, so very interesting questions as well for Sir Nick. So looking forward to getting that to him. That will be our next podcast, which takes place on Wednesday, November the 9th. So it'll be a special one. Us getting some questions from the juniors and then putting them into Sir Nick. So it'll be fascinating to get his views on that. And just finally, then, the Golf Foundation. So staying with the theme of top players, the Golf Foundation had their 70th anniversary awards at the London Golf Club. And Sky Sports presenter Nick Doherty, he was unveiled as the organisation's new president on the day. So basically, the event was to pay tribute to those individuals and organisations who have made an impact on growing the game at junior level. 5 awards were given out. The Stephen Proctor Award for making golf inclusive to all young people. That was won by Baygarth Academy. That's up in North Lincolnshire. The Charles Harrison Award for basically introducing thousands of young people to golf. That went to Ivan Oliver from Scarborough South Cliff Golf Club. The Sir Henry Cotton Award was for services to junior golf over a sustained period. We're talking about sustained golf. This is someone who's worked a lot on developing junior golf. And actually, when we were up in Scotland, if you remember, for the Faldo Series earlier this season, Ian, this was a name which cropped up whilst I was up there. I was talking to a few different people. David Warren, who runs the East Lothian Junior Golf League, when I was over at North Berwick having a chat with him about junior golf, this name cropped up, and you can tell why he's won this award. So congratulations to David. 2 other awards, the Dina Oxley Young Spirit of Golf Award. That's for an outstanding impact. That's actually from a junior golfer. That went to Tilly Garford from Woodall Spa Golf Club. And the Junior Club of the Year, which I can imagine this must be a competitive award, this one, because I can think of thousands of clubs which could quite easily get this award. It went to Great Torrington down in North Devon. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to all the winners there. And congratulations as well to the Golf Foundation. They do a fabulous work. Hang on, Steve.
Hang on, let me just check our trophy cabinet for the junior podcast, Junior Golf Podcast for doing so.
They didn't do a Junior Podcast of the Year award this year. That's for next. That's for next year. Next year's award. So if you're picking up on the hint, the Golf Foundation, we're in the running. We're looking for a trophy.
Just want a trophy.
Just one, yes.
Just one. Doesn't even have to be for the podcast, just a trophy.
Absolutely.
Maybe having biggest nose or something like that.
Yes, Pinocchio, yes. Right, now that wraps up the junior golf news. We are going to be talking about our podcast today, which is about sustainability of golf. We're going to get a live guest on in a second, but just before we do that, Ian, just your thoughts on sustainability of golf and where we are as far as that is concerned within the industry.
Well, do you know what, Steve? As you know, I'm involved in a number of other sports. One of them is motorsport. And of course, motorsport, when it comes to sustainability, gets a bit of a bad rap at times, but they're pushing really, really hard. I always thought golf, actually, it's quite an environmentally friendly game, isn't it? Really. Does golf really... What does golf need to do, really? I mean, it's like everything, reducing carbon footprint, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's trying to get zero emissions. Everybody's trying to get, carbon neutral, et cetera, et cetera. Your average club, I think they're probably pretty good already, to be honest. I think, again, the influence needs to come from the top. As I always say this in all sports, every sport I've ever been involved in, the influence comes down from the top and then feeds down from there. So for me, I'm looking at PGA Tour, I'm looking at DP World Tour, I'm looking at Live Golf. What are they going to do to make the difference and then feed it down and have that clear pathway on a sustainability path that we can then follow and put into place?
Now I look at it the other way around, and I look at it from the juniors upwards. So I'm looking for them to influence the bigger boys as well. So, and that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to hopefully give some of those clubs, some of those golf unions, some of those golf organisations, some of those golf tours you mentioned there. Let's give them a few ideas. Let's get some, some things out there which they need to do, kind of thing. And we've got a couple of important guests on to talk about this subject. So let's get the first one on live on the show. That's England Golf Young Ambassador Alex Holding. And then we'll also have an interview with the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf, their executive director, Jonathan Smith. And then we'll get Alex's thoughts as and when we hear from Jonathan. So
I'm going to drop out. He is. I'm going to drop out. I'll bring him in. Don't forget, though, do comment below if you have a question or just want to have your say. What is your club doing? We want to hear from you. Here's Alex.
Good evening, Alex. How are we this evening?
Good evening, Steve. I'm all good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Now, obviously, we are going to be talking about sustainability in golf. We are going to get an interview, and we're going to get your thoughts on what the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf, what they do, and the kind of impact that they are having on the golf industry. Just as a general point, though, how important is this subject for junior golfers in particular?
Yeah, great question, Steve. I think young people have a great opportunity to speak up about this. To start the conversations within their clubs if they haven't started already. Most golf clubs have a solid junior section these days. So getting an education out there, increasing awareness amongst young people will allow us to be able to speak more to older people and anyone else in the club about the topic, bring it into the picture, have better conversations, better understanding, and then allow more action to be taken on a local scale, but also globally, because we know that it's a global. Climate change is a global issue. So I think it's juniors are in a great position to come into the conversation, drive that conversation, and look at making an impact, a positive impact. And I think that's the ultimate goal really here, is to make golf more sustainable and to be a leader in the space of sport, given that nature is at the heart of golf. So yeah, there's many opportunities here, and junior golfers are definitely able to come into that picture.
And I made the point right at the start of this podcast, the fact that, with the greatest respect to Ian and myself, it's not about us. It's about the younger ones, because they're the ones who are going to be the ones who hopefully benefit or don't if it goes the wrong way. So it is so important, the fact that we do listen to your point of view, because you're the ones who are going to be affected more than anyone really. Yeah,
I think yes, we might be affected slightly more, but it comes down to everyone taking their own responsibility. It's individual responsibility. So yes, we juniors can drive that conversation, but it really needs everyone to be part of that conversation. So, great. Let's platform juniors more. Let's get them on the committee. Let's get sustainability on committee agendas. But let's also make sure that everyone's part of that conversation, because we can't have it polarized where some people want to talk about it, like young people, and other people, doesn't necessarily have to be by age, don't want to talk about it, because everyone has to take an interest to be able to make the changes on a local level. And it's only those cumulative local contributions where we're going to see a change on a global scale. So yeah, it's really important for everyone.
Okay, so we obviously have got an interview with the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf Executive Director Jonathan Smith. Simple question I asked him first of all is what exactly is the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf, and what do they do?
Foundation for Sustainable Golf was founded 15 years ago with a dedicated purpose to help golf with sustainability, to actually act a little bit like a caddy for the sport, to understand the landscape of sustainability and to build some tools and solutions and provide some support to the industry to help accelerate the movement in sustainability within golf, but not just within golf, also through golf. I mean, the more sustainable golf is, golf obviously reaches a lot of people and it can inspire and sort of share sustainability in lots and lots of different ways with fans and in local communities. So our mission was about helping golf with sustainability, but helping sustainability develop much more widely through the sport of golf because of golf's reach. And we've been doing that as a non-profit organization. We've got no commercial interest in this at all. Our mission is just to help advance sustainability in the sport and through the sport.
Now, obviously, that's a massive job to do, if you like. So how do you even start going about doing that?
Well, so it has to be a big collective exercise, sustainability. There's no one golf club, there's no one golf organization, there's no one sport, there's no one sector. that can tackle some of these big issues that we all face, and they're global issues and local issues in sustainability. So it has to be a team effort, and really, we work very collaboratively. It's not about what the foundation can achieve; it's about what we can help parts of golf achieve. So we work with governing bodies like the R&A, who have a very strong leadership program themselves in sustainability. We work with national federations and associations like Wales Golf, Scottish Golf, England Golf, Greenkeepers Associations, really trying to help support them as they take sustainability out to their members and sort of pass that through to more and more clubs, more and more tournaments, and actually also down into golfers' awareness.
Can you give some examples then of the type of things which you have done with clubs and golfers to bring about more sustainability?
Yeah, so what we've done with a lot of golf associations input is to develop things like best practice guidelines for key aspects of sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, it's maybe worth saying the way that we've sort of boiled that complex word down is for golf to talk about how can golf foster nature, how can golf conserve resources, how can golf help strengthen communities, that's the social sort of responsibility part, and how can golf take climate action. So we've boiled sustainability down into 4 kind of action areas, 4 topics for golf. And what we're seeing and what we've built around that are some guidelines. We've built some programs that golf clubs can join and use to guide them. We've built awards and certifications, so to give people recognition when they deserve recognition for their sustainability work. And then really working with golf associations to take that out and engage clubs and engage golf tournaments and offer that support, offer those guidelines, offer those programs and tools, and offer that certification and those awards out to the industry. And we've seen quite a lot of progress. We've seen in the UK around about 250 to 300 golf clubs now participating in one of those programs. There's a whole bundle of some of the sort of very well-known and less well-known golf clubs across the UK that are now fully certified or have environmental awards. Those clubs are really doing some inspiring stuff. We have now over 1,700 sustainability highlights from golf clubs, and they're on our website, actually, at sustainable.golf. You can come and read about the very, very often quite simple and practical things that golf clubs are doing. So in the nature bucket, it's about letting some grass grow, planting some trees, joining up some trees to create a small woodland, letting some wetlands emerge round the pond edges, because that's really important for the ecology. Being really careful with any fertilizer use or chemical use on the golf course so that it's minimalized and the risks minimized. Looking at water efficiency, waste and recycling, avoiding waste going into landfills and holes in the ground, and how can it become more, we use recycled materials and then we continue to recycle those materials, like closing the loop on waste. We're seeing golf clubs do really exciting things with energy, not just energy efficiency and lighting and heating, but renewable energy, solar panels on maintenance facilities and wind turbines and car charging points in the car park for electric cars. On the community side, as well as all the great health and well-being that golf provides, charitable giving, outreach, education, outdoor classrooms for environmental education. And then on the carbon side, we are seeing some just great work from golf clubs, calculating their carbon emissions, reducing their carbon emissions, and also working out how much carbon is stored by the golf course itself. So that's the whole climate action area, like what's golf doing there. So across nature resources, climate and communities, there's just a lot of really, really good practical work taking place within the industry right now. And I have to say it's really exciting because it's accelerating. Over the last 2-3 years in particular, as sustainability, post-COVID, as sustainability has just gone up and up in people's awareness, something we really need to do. And we need to do it in this decade. It's really important. It's quite an urgent issue, a lot of these issues. Golf is really stepping forward, and it's accelerating at a time when we all need to sort of accelerate our efforts.
So that's Jonathan Smith giving us an idea about what they do at the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf. Obviously, a lot to take in there, Alex. A lot of ideas that he said that they're doing. They're working with clubs. What are your thoughts on the type of things that they're doing and how important it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's Jonathan's covered a lot of areas there, all of which are really important. From an England golf perspective, I think looking at how they define sustainability, it's meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future to meet theirs. That captures the essence of what those actions will do. And I think looking at environmental responsibility, social progress and economic activity, tying those all together is really important to allow local communities to thrive, and golf courses can drive that activity. So I've looked at the sustainability.golf page. They've got hundreds of case studies available, be it charity events or enhancing heather growth, for example. I actually found one about the Golf National, one of the 607 golf courses in France, just to give the audience a cheeky stat there. They were looking at recycling green waste to create wild islands in wetland areas, which boost up biodiversity, allowing species like frogs and snakes to thrive, enriching that local biodiversity. And this is a way to recycle, but also to reduce waste, but also look at ways to allow species to thrive. So it's sort of most of the actions you can take can have multiple beneficial effects, and that's where I think taking the action can really make a huge difference, even on a small scale. So yeah.
We will come to what you've specifically done yourself with England Golf, but I just wanted to bring Jonathan back in. The question I asked him was how important is it the next generation get involved in this process as well? Let's just hear from Jonathan.
First of all, it's really important for the generation of people that make decisions about golf and clubs and more generally to think about future generations. I mean, this is about the sort of future resilience and success of the sport of golf, because there are some of those sustainability issues that are out there are challenges for the golf industry: droughts, flooding, regulation around chemicals. How will we maintain really good playing conditions if we don't have some of the products that we currently need to manage those golf courses? Public perception, pressure on land. For nature, we are seeing some examples where people are saying, why don't we turn our golf course into a nature reserve, without currently understanding that it actually does perform like a nature reserve. So there are some pressures here, and so golf getting involved in sustainability is about protecting the future of the game, its success and its growth and its kind of resilience, and how in 100 years' time, how good is golf going to be in a world that's become even more preoccupied with sustainability? But it's, as you say, it's also really about, if golf becomes more sustainable now, it's looking after the green spaces that we need. It's looking after the biodiversity. It's protecting the water quality. It's making sure there's enough water for, us to drink and to irrigate crops and to use on golf courses. So it's about making a difference for the next generation. So I think that's the big thing now. And I think we can see that in golf, golf really taking on board that responsibility that it has, as well as its opportunity to be at the forefront. But it would be fantastic to also think about how, young golfers now and the families that golf is working hard to bring in, can be part of that movement and be part of helping golf on this journey. Because we know from studies, attitudinal studies, that young people are very concerned about the environment. They know that that the society and that human beings depend on the environment in much like sharper focus than our generation understood that. So it would be great to get some of their ideas and some of their concerns into the mix. And to hear some of that in terms of what they would hope that golf would look like, in the decades ahead, and actually be proud in what golf can help contribute to the whole global sustainability movement in the decades ahead. And there's some practical things, of course, that every golfer can do, and every young golfer in junior golf section could do.
I'm just wondering, Alex, do you think there's been a bit of a wake-up call, even this last summer, which has been very hot? There's been periods whereby, both Ian and myself have been on golf courses whereby we've barely seen any green at all. It's been brown or yellow and white at times, kind of thing. Do you think there's been a bit of a wake-up call that people are starting to realise that this is not just a one-off thing? This could be a continuous thing unless we do something about it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's lots that can be done. Firstly, it's about awareness. So understanding that you're not going to have, a pure kind of luscious green golf course all year round. It's unattainable, and it's an unrealistic expectation. So I think, it's great that people start to think like that and think, oh, actually, hold on a second, this could be a longer lasting effect, and it's not just going to be this summer that I have, brown fairways or burn out, areas of the course. I think it's something that we've done as young ambassadors this year over the summer. As you say, it was very hot, so there are 18 of us on the program, and we were all given a reusable water bottle, and then we tracked our usage over August. So I think the average was 44 times per ambassador through the month. So we saved 792 plastic water bottles. So if you do the math and you have a club of 1,000 members, on a monthly basis, a club could save 44,000 bottles per month. So not only, so you're reducing your plastic waste consumption, for example, and that's one way in which you can look at, introducing kind of methods to reduce your consumption within the golf club, and it's in the interest of every golfer to do that, not only junior golfers, and ultimately allowing golf to be more sustainable and lead in this space.
Have you had that conversation with golf clubs? Have you explained that story to golf clubs, and what's their reaction been when you've explained those statistics to them?
So I've in my golf club we already have reusable water bottles available in the pro shop. So again, it's trying to move away from buying your £1 water bottle, it's plastic, from the fridge. It's about going and still supporting your local pro and buying a branded for your club reusable water bottle. Have those conversations to increase the number of water stations on the course, and just encouraging that reuse and recycle attitude towards consumption. This is a slightly different example to talking about sort of browning fairways, but it's one way in which you can make a difference, and it's part of understanding what can you do on individually that can then help towards the wider picture, which is the golf course, the golf club, the clubhouse, and sort of looking at the bigger picture as well. So
I suppose the key question I was trying to get at there is are golf clubs listening to the junior golfers when they come with practical examples and say, look, here's the facts, this is what happens. Surely, you would hope that common sense kicks in and they would go, actually, you're right in what you say there. Are they actually listening? That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, I think junior golfers need to be heard, and that's what I sort of alluded to earlier, is that junior golfers need to have the platform. So your junior captains, your vice captains, it'd be great for them to ensure golf clubs to ensure that they have a position on their golf club committees, so they can be part of the conversation, so they can bring it to the table and say, look, we did this, or our juniors want to do this as well. So it's not just a young ambassador program with England Golf that does it. It's every junior section. If they can run a case study for their club and say, look, we're all using reusable water bottles, why don't you do it, or can you go and do it, or just give it a go? Because it's about starting those conversations and being heard. And so by leading by example, as a junior section is a great way to start influencing that change.
And if golf clubs are watching this, we're going to bring Jonathan Smith in here, because I asked him this question. If anyone is looking for an inspiration out there as far as a youngster who can influence not just locally, nationally, but the world, I think Greta Thunberg is the perfect example. And the question I put to Jonathan is, how much of an inspiration is she to all youngsters out there? Let's hear from Jonathan.
Absolutely have to hear those voices, and it's inspirational, actually, I think, to see so many young people expressing their concerns and asking current generation decision makers to think slightly differently, and to maybe show a bit more care for the environment is what's being asked. No, I think that's fantastic, and I could see that in golf clubs, junior golfers there's absolute reason why they shouldn't have a voice in their clubs. And I mean, some of the things that they could do would be, for example, to encourage their clubs and advocate for, maybe ask the question, is there any more nature we could have on our golf course? There quite often is a little space here or there for a bit more nature. Now, that's not to decry the great work that greenkeepers do, and a lot of golf clubs already do, but if you look with a slightly different eye at the golf landscape, you quite often find a little bit more space for nature. So without being too pushy about it and without trying to slow down rounds of golf and lose more golf balls, that would be quite an interesting place for golf clubs to look at, and maybe, you know, aided by junior golfers. You know, where could we see a bit more nature on the course? The other one that all golfers can help with, including junior golfers, is a bit of, I would say it's a bit of kindness towards your greenkeeper. It's not easy to provide perfect playing conditions 12 months of the year in the kinds of climate that we have. So I think we all need to show a bit more care and concern for course managers, that they are really, you know, they're delivering a lot with more and more pressures. So asking questions about why the golf course looks like that, rolling with the seasons, not being too fussy if there's a little bobble on a putt, or the greens are running that little bit slower than you might personally like. I think there's a bit of around the way that turf is presented and the golf course presented, there are things that golfers can do, but junior golfers could actually lead some of that ethos towards their course managers, I think would be quite nice. And then, of course, there's very practical things that golfers can do. Look out for the latest recycled polo shirts, look out for the golf tees that biodegrade, look out for the golf shoes that are made out of, you know, 70, 80, 90% recycled plastics and rubbers, like some of the brands that are out there. Car share, carry a water bottle and refill it. Ask your club if they can help with some more refilling points. Sometimes asking about golf club storage and cycling to and from the club. It's a bit old-fashioned maybe in some ways, but, you know, sometimes we've got to look backwards to look forwards. So I think there would be three things that I would call out for any golfer, but I think junior golfers could really help. Advocate for a bit of nature on the golf course. Be kind to your greenkeeper, and think about some of the things that you buy and how you travel, and also how you eat at the club. You know, are there any local things on the menu? What's, you know, how healthy is the menu? How seasonal is it? Those things really matter. A lot of the carbon emissions in the world come from food consumption, production. Again, how can a junior golfer maybe ask, where did this burger come from? And just see what answer they get. Hopefully it will be a local burger. Hopefully there'll be a vegetarian and vegan burger option alongside it.
So some interesting ideas there from Jonathan about what juniors can do within their golf club. Are some of those ideas that you've even considered yourself, talking to your golf club about, Alex?
Yeah, so, well, luckily my golf club is already quite far ahead in terms of sustainability. They're already running lots of different kind of programs. They don't use fertilizers, for example. They use a natural biological pesticide, as opposed to anything that's sort of harsher and chemically driven. So that's one thing they already do. I think, you know, with starting conversations with other members is something that I've certainly done, is having that conversation at the member level. So targeting the membership and getting those conversations between people so that they do have a better understanding of why their golf course might be changing between seasons and why it's not perfect. And, you know, for example, with England Golf, we had the pleasure of visiting Woburn Golf Club. We got to see all the work they're doing, for example. And one way in which they're reducing their water consumption is, or what they have done, I should say, is they did a survey on their local area and found a borehole. They've connected to that, and then they've set up a reservoir. And this reservoir can supply their golf course with enough water for over a year. If there was a long-term drought. We get plenty of rain in the UK anyway, but that is becoming more variable. So that's one example of ways, you know, slightly bigger ways perhaps that golf clubs can look to invest in their course. And, you know, the key thing here is that you can make that investment initially. But what they found was that after 4 or 5 years, they were saving, the amount of costs they had saved had paid back that investment. So you're looking at a financial saving here as well as a water saving. So you're looking at an environmental and an economic benefit, and I think that's really, you know, the key here, is that you can benefit financially as a club from making these investments in the short term, for the long-term benefit. And that was a really great learning point for me, and it's something that I've used with conversations I've had with members at my club about, you know, what can a local club do, or a slightly smaller club that maybe hasn't got, you know, a big budget. And it's again looking at the suggestions from Jonathan about, you know, setting up smaller nature areas, you know, just improving one corner of the course that doesn't get a lot of action, you know, just ensuring that biodiversity, it can thrive in that area. And as I said already, there's so many examples on the sustainability.golf website that I've looked at. So it's not just looking at biodiversity, it's looking at things like exploring electric and hybrid golf course maintenance machinery. So, you know, what are you cutting your grass with? Are you using petrol or diesel machines, or can you switch to hybrid or electric vehicles? And that was something that Wobur's looking at doing as well, and that other golf courses can start to talk about. So there's so many options available, as I keep saying, but it's a case of going and reading about it as well. So have those conversations that I'm having with fellow members, and telling people to go and read more about it, because once you get kind of the membership on board with the idea, then you can really push the conversations onto the committee and make sure they can start making the changes on a tangible level.
Now we've obviously, okay, keep on the air asking the question of you approaching your golf club and talking to people within the golf industry. It's a question I asked Jonathan this, is that what's the image of the golf industry outside, if you saw what I mean. I'll ask you the same question. How do you feel that the golf industry, that the image of it to non-golfers is, as far as sustainability is concerned? Because in theory, people must look at it and go, well, it's outside, it must be good. But at the same time, if I won't mention any names, but you know exactly what I'm talking about here. There's a former president out there who gave golf a bad reputation. So, and in particular with his project up in Scotland, when he built a golf course up there. So, how do you see the golf industry's image within non-golfers?
Yeah, so I think this touches on the sort of the social aspect of golf and trying to make golf more inclusive and accessible to a wide range of people. I think there's no point ignoring that, you know, golf has traditionally been more elitist, whereas I think that's definitely changing now. That the way I try to look at golf as an example of where golf could go is to compare it to football. So for those people that aren't looking, so I don't want to take away from talking about golf, but I think it's a great example because you look at football and they've got an amazing grassroots game. And so if you try and do that with golf, you're going to be able to introduce a lot more people to the game. And it becomes naturally more popular for people. It becomes more normal for them to try it at school with their friends in a more social context. It becomes more accessible to people and it becomes more inclusive. And I think that's one way in which golf can start to change its perspective and go from being more from its traditional view and perspective to non-golfers, that it's not for me. That kind of trying to make it more about, you know, bringing everyone into the game. That's a really key message to convey to people to change their perception on golf. So that's one way in which I know, you know, the Golf Foundation and England Golf are working towards, you know, developing the grassroots game within the UK, and it's something that if we do globally as well, that negative perception perhaps can start to shift and make golf more accessible. Yeah.
Let's hear from what Jonathan had to say when I put the question to him, what kind of image the golf industry has.
One of the things that's driven golf's current work and sustainability has been an awareness that golf's image has not been very good. And actually, it's a shame because one of the reasons golf's image isn't very good is because, you know, the public or environmental organizations, often with good justification, will highlight one golf development or one example of how bad golf is, and then they'll use that to paint a picture that that's the whole sport. And of course, that's not. I mean, we'll travel around golf clubs and we see really dedicated, you know, golf clubs and club managers and PJ professionals and greenkeepers working together to make it more sustainable and to be a really good asset environmentally and socially in their community. It's inspiring, some of the things that you see in golf, but outside golf, a lot of people don't see that. They do just see the golf development that bulldozed a lot of land, that felled a lot of trees, that destroyed some mangrove swamps, mangrove coastline. They might see golf that's not been really very kind to communities. And by the way, this plays out in different ways, shapes and sizes in different parts of the world. In the UK and places like Scotland, we're kind of a little bit born and bred with golf. So we we just all live with golf. It's one of our national sports, and a great part of tourism, and it's something we're very proud of having helped develop and share with the world. But if you go to other countries, that's not the way that golf is perceived. You don't have to go too far from the UK, where golf is not necessarily seen as part of the fabric of the country or the culture. It's seen as something elite, separate, and sometimes environmentally damaging. And I think so golf really does have to work on its image. And I think the best way of doing that is to get the stories out about all the good things that the grassroots of the game are doing, and the way that the industry is working hard on this subject. And that will help to start to temper, to overcome what the current sort of message is, which is, there's another bad project, another bad example, and that paints a picture for the whole industry. We do need to do something about that.
Now we'll come to you in the second, Alex, but I'm just going to put another point to Jonathan, and then I'll get your views on exactly the question I also put to Jonathan was, what role can juniors play? You used about the fact that you can use social media, so and how you can influence people. Let's just hear Jonathan's thought on that, and then we'll bring you in, Alex.
That is part of just creating an awareness and actually a sort of feel good around golf and sustainability. That it's not just about science, it is about people understanding the subject. It's about people feeling motivated and inspired. So I think, the work that England Golf are doing with the ambassadors and bringing sustainability and education and sort of advocacy into that space is hugely valuable. The DP World Tour and the Ladies European Tour have been working hard on engaging players like Suzanne Petterson, the Solheim Cup captain, but also Camille Chevalier. There's a few women professional golfers who are now stepping forward, what we call sustainable golf champions. And then we're starting to see out, Sky Sports commentators, people in the media. There's definitely an opportunity and a great, it'd just be great to see more people who have influence, where golfers look to them for messages and ideas and sort of direction. If we could help them build some good sustainability content, about, come on, let's look at golf's better with nature. Let's not contribute to plastic pollution in the ocean. Let's champion golf, and how much value does golf give in your local community? Any more than it can do. Come on, let's strive for some of these carbon reduction and net zero targets. Let's be part of that cleaner, greener world. I'm sort of paraphrasing a few things, but there are some things that influencers could really help get out and reach lots of people.
I think the key word there is influencers, and as you well know, Alex, is that influencers are associated, that word is associated with social media, and obviously that is associated with younger people. So how important is it to use social media to benefit, to try and get this message across?
Yeah, it's so important. I don't think you can sort of overstate the importance of social media. It's in most people's lives nowadays, particularly young people. So in the same way that golf reaches a lot of people across all ages, so does social media. So by joining the two together, we can definitely start to push out the right messages about golf and start to drive that change, that sustainability drive. I think it's a great platform to use. Us young ambassadors, we have our own platform that we can share what we do. The England Golf, the Golf Foundation, they've all got their own platforms to be sharing what's going on. So if you go and follow them and you keep up to date with what's going on in their world, which is, as a golfer, that'd be your golfing world as well. That's a great opportunity to learn and to understand more about what's happening. And I think this sort of this ties in with looking to inspire others and make positive change. As I said before, as golf's got a global reach, as does social media, it's a no-brainer to use social media, and by bringing young people together with influencers who have a bigger platform, to champion golf, as Jonathan said, and really add that value, then I think there's no other way to. Well, there are multiple ways to do it, but this is a great way to do it. And this message is really about collaboration and the opportunity to work together. So. Yeah,
and actually two points on that. One thing which Jonathan mentioned there, using former players as well, so using people who have an influence in the sense of their name is already out there. You know, Suzanne Pedersen, who's next year's Solheim Cup captain, was a name that Jonathan mentioned there as well. But also going back to my point a little earlier is the fact that you're not just targeting the people within the golf industry. You can target people who aren't within the golf industry, and obviously, when you're on social media. I don't know how many people are within your social media network, but perhaps more than half of them may not play golf, kind of thing. So you can get that message across to people who aren't within the industry and try and give a more positive impression of what the golf industry is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, reaching out to people and getting those messages out to non-golfers as well is part of driving that kind of that change, that culture change within the golfing world and the industry, to ensure that it is more accessible. And and you might hear about opportunities to go and try out golf at your local club, for example, through social media. And if the local club's got a session on a Saturday morning, you can a young person might see that and then go, oh, actually, ask mum and dad to take them up to the club on the weekend. And I think that's the other great thing about bringing juniors into the game through social media, is that it also can touch the parents or the guardians as well, because with junior golfers you depend on your parent or your guardian to come in and support you, which brings them into the conversation as well. So you're really kind of getting two birds with one stone by trying to promote to non-golfers as well as golfers, and bring as many people into the picture, and start understanding that the golf is trying to make a positive impact, environmentally, socially, as well as sort of economically, I suppose. So yeah.
Now, obviously, I don't know whether you listened to the podcast we did a week ago, but it was about Junior Opens, and it's something which I do myself. I organise quite a few of those types of events, kind of thing. This is a point I raised when I was talking to Jonathan about what advice would I want, or what could he give me as if I was a golf club about how to make some of these events more sustainable and the message that they can pass on. Let's hear what Jonathan had to say about this.
From large events like Ryder Cup, the Open Championship, Green Links, through the R&A has done a huge amount at large events, DP World Tour, Rolex Series. There's a lot happening at the large event side. At the smaller events, you take just some of the same principles and you apply them in a smaller scale. We talk about the venue itself, the staging of the event, the communications to the people who are at the event, and we actually talk a little bit about the legacies that even a small event can have, the sort of ripple effect that can have. So that's how we approach a golf tournament. And we sort of, within that, so the venue, tell the story about the nature that's on the golf course, have a little nature trail that's running, have an education day that's linked, or an education hour that's linked to the event for all the participants in the event. There's a fantastic event in Italy called the Venice Open. It's run with the US Kids Foundation. They have packed environmental education into almost every part of that event, from the time that the children and the families arrive to the time they depart, with any sort of little sustainable gifts and mementos that they take with them. The mums and dads and the guardians get environmental education on arrival. The kids do an environmental scorecard before they go out and play their round, which tells them a bit about what to expect while they're playing. Everything is reused and recycled. The transports, all local hotels that are accredited by for the sustainability standards that they have. The water and hydration, there's nothing that's plastic, is zero waste. What else are they doing? They're calculating the carbon emissions using some tools that we've provided to them. They do some carbon offsetting. So if they've got unavoidable emissions, they do legacy projects with local environmental groups, and they provide some funding from the project, from the golf tournament, into that tree planting or some other type of environmental restoration project. So that's a really good example. And that's the venue that's making it happen, Montecchia Golf Club. And then the organizers, US Kids Foundation, have bought into the whole thing. They speak to all the suppliers and contractors. Where does the food come from? Where are the golf tees coming from? What kind of buses are they using? And they've done that for about 4 years. And each year, they didn't say, we're not going to do this because we can't do it all. They just started small. And each year, they added a few more things in. And it's now become a really, actually a bit of a showcase for a small amateur event, I would say. That's the Venice Open. And I think there's a case study about it on our website.
People who walk away from that event will go, wow, that was different. So it's more exciting to be a part of.
They've infused it into the event. It's just part of the identity and part of the experience of going to that tournament and being part of that tournament, is that it's greener and it's more responsible and it's more sustainable. There's nothing preachy about it. I mean, this is where the sustainability, there is a whole science to it, and it's quite complex. And I guess people in organizations like ours have to deal with the complexity. But event organizers and clubs can, they can sort of, if we can make it simpler for them, take some of the complexity out and just make it about practical things. If they can then pass that on in a non-preachy way, in an engaging way to the players that come to their tournaments or their members, or even ripple it out into the community, that's when we're really going to start winning, I think, and that's when the image of golf will change, because there'll just be so many good stories and so many good examples of golf embracing sustainably. It will be credible because it will be attached to some bigger things, but it also needs to be really light and engaging and very simple and practical at the other end. I mean, everything I've just described, for example, over the last 10, 15 minutes, everything in nature resources, climate communities, it's all traceable back to things like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So you go from a local event like Montecchia or any local event in the UK, amateur event, some of those things that those clubs and those event organizers can help achieve, you can track right back to protecting life on land, sustainable communities, climate action. I'll get a bit technical here. Sustainable production and consumption, equality, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some of the big things that the whole world is kind of wrestling with. But yeah, given that golf is, millions of people playing at tens of thousands of golf facilities and at hundreds, if not thousands, of golf tournaments, just imagine all of that rippled down right to the sort of like the detailed end of things, and all of those sort of, I guess, do one thing type actions were happening. That stacks up to, golf being really a positive force in sustainability. And that's not where a lot of the outside world thinks golf is, or where golf can even be. They think golf is, maybe doesn't have that opportunity or can't be a positive force, but it absolutely can.
Yeah, I hope that is the case. I'll just give an example of Alex of something which I always do at a golf course. I don't know whether you do the same thing, but I don't have any tees in my bag. And basically, I just go to a tee and I just find one on the floor. And I just think to myself, I'm sure I can find a small one. If I can't find a big one to hit a driver, I'll just hit a rescue or whatever, just so I can keep the ball in play. And sooner or later, I'll find a big tee and I'll use that for the rest of my round. And it just saves me having to buy tees. It means that I'm recycling the tees which are out there, kind of thing. Very, very simple, practical. I did that around the golf with someone recently, and they took the mickey out of me for most of the round, the fact that I was doing it, but I couldn't care less, because it was just my little way of doing things. And that was the point that Jonathan made there. It can be little things that you do, but when they build up, it suddenly becomes the norm, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about changing the little behaviors in your own way of playing golf and engaging with sustainability, right through to the club level. So, I do the same. A couple of my friends, they always, they know I don't have tees in my bag, or I only have a few. I keep a few of the Castle tees, that last quite a while, and they're maybe not that sustainable because they're plastic, but you can get bamboo tees, you can get biodegradable tees. There are obviously sustainable options out there. But I think it's a great way to reuse and recycle what other people tend to just leave lying around. So it's definitely not a bad idea. And I think going back to what Jonathan said about looking at events and what do events do and tournaments, I think a few years ago at the Open, I was there and seeing that the refill stations were there available to people. The same thing at Wentworth this year, they had the same thing, and I think there's the right the small things you can do, and there's also the things that events and tournaments are doing, as well as clubs. There's as you say, there's everything. Everyone can do one little thing, and it's not necessarily saying we don't want to say to clubs go away and make 10 pledges and make sure you get all of them done in the next 2 years. It's about taking the small steps, individually as a club and nationally and internationally. And I think, although we want to accelerate the change, and that's what GEO for Sustainable Golf is all about, but it's accelerating it over a realistic time period. So it really involves individual responsibility as well as club and sort of club responsibility and national sort of bodies to come into the picture. Interesting point, Steve, because I'm not too dissimilar.
we're cut from the same cloth by the sounds of it. So, right, we are coming to the end of this podcast here. So we're just going to get just one final question, which I put to Jonathan. And that's just to give some contact details if anyone wants to find out a little bit more about the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf. So let's just hear those from Jonathan.
Everything's at sustainable.golf, and most of our social media is around @sustainablegolf. Or hashtag for sustainable golf. So just Google sustainable golf and you'll find us. And then on our website, there's quite a lot of guidance. There's ideas. There is sustainable.golf/highlights. That's where it's a bit like Pinterest for sustainable golf. So if you want to see what individual clubs are doing, they're creating highlights. We curate them. We press share and they go up into the whole gallery of sustainable golf highlights. There's also a sustainable golf map and directory. You can find out if your club is participating or which clubs round about you are participating. So, hello@sustainable.golf. All and any questions, queries, opinions, critique of our work, anything like that is welcomed. It's a difficult, sustainability is not an exact science. Nobody gets it right 100% of the time. There's quite a lot of trial and error and things, and we're very much open for that side of the conversation. If there's a hard nut to crack, let's talk about what the nut is and how we can crack it.
And I'd certainly recommend anyone get in touch with them as well to get some ideas as well. With yourself, Alex, obviously you're young ambassador and part of England Golf as well. Just to give some contact details for anyone who wants to get in touch with England Golf and find out about what you can do as far as sustainability of golf is concerned. If you've got some details for us.
Yeah, I've got some details for you. I just wanted to kind of just before I do that, just bounce off what Jonathan's just said, and I think it's it's about trial and error at this stage. It's not an exact science. You can learn from your own projects. If they don't go well, you can learn from those, and so can others. And that's where sharing what you do through the resources available through GEO Foundation. I think it's really important to take it on and don't be afraid of failing, because it's all about trying to make a positive impact. And then there's also plenty of information, as Jonathan said, available already to learn from and go and do the same thing. In terms of trying to give you some more information on England Golf, the Golf Foundation, and the Young Ambassador Programme, you can find us on Instagram. It's england.golf. There's the Golf Ambassadors, which is Golf Ambassadors, and you can also find the Golf Foundation, which is golf_foundation_org. And please use the hashtag Sustainability Drive. You'll find some content associated with that hashtag on the social medias available. And then lastly, England Golf have introduced a sort of a guide to the Sustainability Drive, which is a plan from 2022 to 2025, and it outlines all the guidelines for local clubs to look at and integrate into their plans, and how they might look at introducing sustainability and embed it within what they want to do on an annual basis. So definitely have a look at that as well. It's a great resource.
So no one's got any excuses now, have they? We've given them all the information that they need. We've given them some ideas and tips and of how we can hopefully make this sport better, more sustainable for years to come. thanks very much for coming on the show, Alex. Really appreciate all your help and comments. Also, thanks very much for Jonathan for giving us a massive background there of what the GEA Foundation for Sustainable Golf is all about. Just mentioned one of the next podcasts coming up in 2 weeks' time. So we're going to be talking to Sir Nick Faldo. So anyone who has any questions at all for Sir Nick, be interested to ask him about, because he is a golf course designer, of course. So we're interested to get his views on what he has been doing with sustainable golf with the courses that he's looking to build as well. So that's something which I'm sure we'll talk to him about as well. But if anyone has any other questions for him, please get in touch and we'll pass those on. That'll be on the podcast in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much, Alex. Thanks very much, Jonathan. And thanks very much for everyone else for watching. And good evening.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jonathan. And thanks, Ian, as well.